Good evening and welcome to Harrisburg City Council's legislative session. Today is November the 10th, 2020. I'm calling this meeting to order at 6 o'clock p.m. Mr. Petrosky, please do the roll call.
Mr. Allett?
Present.
Ms. Bowers?
Present.
Ms. Daniels?
Here.
Ms. Green?
Present.
Mr. Madsen?
Here.
Mr. Majors?
Here.
Ms. Williams?
Present. Thank you, Mr. Petrosky. We now will move on with the invocation. Mr. Madsen.
Thank you, President Williams. We've had a string of shootings this past week. We've also seen an uptick in COVID-19 cases throughout the state and locally. And I'm encouraging all residents to adhere to CDC guidelines, wear a mask, social distance, wash their hands, and avoid large gatherings if at all possible. On a lighter note, we do have a new president-elect. And if we can all pray for those affected to the COVID-19 and string of shootings, but also pray for a peaceful transition for our upcoming new president and all the other elected officials that either retained their office or are entering into a new office. So if we could just take a moment for those and reflect on those things. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Madsen. We now move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Green.
Thank you, President Williams. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. We now will move on to communications, but before we do that, I understand the mayor would like to introduce Ms. Deborah Seiberlin, who is our new diversity officer for the city of Harrisburg.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, I would. I'll let her speak for herself here very briefly, but we are very happy to welcome her aboard. This is a position that we've been trying to fill now for some time, and we were very fortunate to find this particular candidate. So, Deborah, the floor is yours.
Unmute. You have yourself muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I apologize for that. Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay. I had some technical difficulties yesterday, so I wanted to double check. Well, first of all, thank you for welcoming me. I look forward to working with the city of Harrisburg. A little bit about my background. I consider myself a grassroots professional, meaning I've been in human resources / labor relations my entire career. I never did anything else. During that time, I've worn many hats. I like to think that my area of specialty is labor relations and community development. I exceed and I enjoy working with investigations on behalf of the employer. And I have some background in local government. Previous to coming to the city, I had experience working with public school. So I'm a little nervous. I had experience working with public school education, which is a form of local government. And I've also worked with the County of Monroe for several years, where I was the Deputy Director of Human Resources, responsible for corrections, the nursing home, and children and youth. I ended up in Harrisburg is because I moved to the area to take a job with the PLCB. And then everything just seemed to unravel with the COVID and then the change in the developments of what direction that they wanted to go. So I ultimately applied for this position. And in hindsight, I'm really glad that it ended the way it did with the PLCB, because I believe this position is a much better match for me, where I can use my skills to benefit the city as a whole.
Well, thank you, Ms. Seiberlin. We welcome you to the city of Harrisburg, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to communications, Mr. Petrosky. Do we have any communications?
I do. The first public comment that was submitted is by Rachel Goad. And she writes, for months now, you have been engaging with the public in the development of Bill 8 to establish a Citizens Law Enforcement Advisory Committee that would serve as an intermediary between police and the public. You're voting on its adoption tonight. Many of us provided regular feedback asking you to ensure that this body provides meaningful oversight to the city's police department, which has shown itself otherwise lack of transparency and accountability. This weekend, Harrisburg city officers disrupted a gathering of largely Black community members at Hurston Manor by unlawfully entering their property and escalating a noise complaint to the point of pepper spraying and arresting the homeowner. The trauma caused by the city's officers who responded to the scene is completely unacceptable, and these acts, backed up by multiple recordings, were abusive. Where is the oversight, and how will these officers be held accountable? How will the city make things right for those who are abused? And how do we ensure no community members are treated this way? In the aftermath of George Floyd's murder, and among the many community meetings that were had, I learned that the Harrisburg police are highly trained. They have accumulated hours, awards for all training, according to the mayor. They love the training, and what's extraordinary, well-trained police force escalated noise complaint to the point of trauma and harm to multiple community members this weekend. How effectively are we using the city funds for all these training results and abusive police force? How many lawsuits has the city received as a result of these abuses? How much money have we spent in legal fees? And it seems clear that these financial difficult times, police are increasingly a bad investment. Beyond better accountability and oversight for punitive tactics, police budget should be redirected to programs and services that directly engage and support community members. The next comment is submitted by Rachel Lee Peacock. She writes, I live in the city of Harrisburg, and I've been writing the council over the past week, asking them to protect Black and brown folks from police brutality. Yet this weekend, I almost died at the hands of Harrisburg Bureau of Police. I was terrified for my life, as well as the lives of my friends. Why hasn't the mayor addressed a single concern of the city's residents over police conduct? A group of friends gathered at Dr. Kamika Campbell's residence in Shipoke for an outside gathering. A little after 11 a.m., I saw a white light move towards us from the end of her courtyard. I went to check it out, thinking that it might be a friend. That I saw a uniform and realized there was a stranger in our midst. I walked up to him and he asked what was up. He never identified himself as police, never knocked or called to us, and I didn't go to the front door to ring a bell. However, Officer Hoover illegally entered my friend's property, claiming it was a noise complaint. We already had turned the music off, and he opened her gate without permission and walked on the property. So I informed him that we already turned the music down and thanked him for coming and asked him to step off the property. By this time, Dr. Campbell had come out and asked why he thought he had the right to enter the property. Hoover refused to answer at first and he asked her for her name, and she was the property owner. She informed Hoover that she was indeed the owner, and Hoover voiced extreme condescending and had an angry flair to it. He repeatedly lied and said that he had the right to be on the property. Dr. Campbell informed him that he had the right to come on the property, but he didn't have the right to be on the property. He had entered the property without asking, without a warrant, without identifying himself as a police officer. Dr. Campbell told him that she would be happy to speak with him once he got off the property, and that she would accept a citation for the noise complaint. When he still refused to leave the property, Dr. Campbell got loud and told him repeatedly to get out of her yard. He didn't like that Dr. Campbell knew the law better than him and could quote it, and didn't like she raised her voice. When she got loud, it was obvious he was mad. He didn't go back to the gate. However, he wedged the gate and refused to close it. I repeatedly asked the officer to go into the parking lot and allow me to close the gate. He refused and then started threatening to cite Dr. Campbell for a public disturbance. At this point, a friend started recording, and I took pictures of the badge name and department. I repeatedly asked Officer Hoover to allow me to close the gate. I was calm, cool, and collective. Hoover was upset that we were recording him, and I continued calmly to ask him to move towards the gate that we could close it. Hoover then called for backup. A short time later, Officer Cummings showed up and they began blocking the gate as well, but backed away when he realized I had a camera. Cummings knew that Hoover's actions were lawful while he backed up. I was afraid for Dr. Campbell's life because Hoover kept telling her if she moved toward him, he would mace her, but then reached around and tried to grab her while she was on her property. I blocked the gate inside my property, trying to protect her, even though I was terrified for my life. I know that the cops are trigger happy, and I would have been to many protests, and I've seen the videos. I personally experienced police brutality before, and I'm sure I'll experience it again. I just knew that I had to de-escalate the situation because Hoover was trying to instigate something. All of his comments were about authority, about his right to come on the other's properties. He wasn't protecting his service. He was using white supremacy to try and control the situation. 2 more officers showed up, and Hoover continued to escalate the situation by threatening to mace me and Dr. Campbell. He then stated that he was going to mace us unless we backed up. I put down the phone and got in between Dr. Campbell and Hoover, and I was scared for Dr. Campbell's life. I knew that I had to get in between him, and Hoover's demeanor was malice, and he tried to mace me. I still didn't move, though, because I didn't want my friends to get hurt. I knew as long as I was standing in the post, Dr. Campbell was safe. My friend Josh moved me out of the way and laid on me and instructed me not to move. It was the bravest thing I've ever saw. He refused to let me up after I maced. Hoover grabbed Dr. Campbell from her yard and dragged her out of the gate. He illegally detained Dr. Campbell. All of this over a noise complaint. All of this through Dr. Campbell had agreed to pay the citation, but wanted to respect her Fourth Amendment rights, all because Officer Hoover wanted to save face after illegally entering the property without a warrant. Some people are going to say Dr. Campbell should have been more calm, but raising your voice is not a crime. Breaking and entering is. Even if you're a policeman, if you have a warrant, you have to come knock and announce yourself. He responded to a noise complaint. He should have rang the doorbell, including Dr. Campbell, about the complaint, then giving her a citation or a warning and walk away. He was clearly in the wrong. After he handcuffed Dr. Campbell and shoved her in the car, I cried all night. I kept thinking about what I could have done better. My objective was to de-escalate, but I even thought I was talking calmly and politely as I could. Officer Hoover maced me on Dr. Campbell's property. I was no threat to him. I could have been a hashtag of another Black soul. Josh could have been a hashtag. Dr. Campbell could have been a hashtag. It's hard being a Black woman in this country, and now I don't feel safe in my city. The encounter with the police this weekend was one of the scariest moments in my life, and I tried to de-escalate the situation. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not the calmest person. I'm angry, loud, Black woman 99% of the time, but I was scared for myself and my friends. I knew that I had to be careful. That's why I was so calm. I demand Officer Hoover to be fired, dishonorably discharged, ensure that he never hurts another Black woman. I demand Officer Cummings be reprimanded. I demand Corporal Chapman, who is there as a supervisor and refused to intervene, also reprimand, allowing officers to behave in such way. I demand the mayor and city council to create a real review board with punitive power, because the cops keep getting away with this, and I don't feel that it's the standard conduct anymore. Liam Hicklin submitted the following comment. Dear City Council, I'm writing this letter about Bill 8 of 2020. In some ways, it is more particularly, this letter is about need for more police oversight and need to defund the Harrisburg Police Department. The way this City Council and the mayor respond to the incident will demonstrate your commitment to the ideals you champion as you take the next step to create the body of Harrisburg residents to oversee matters of police misconduct. Adopting the bill creates an advisory committee. Will be toothless if the incident isn't resolved fairly, transparently, and if consequences aren't met in a timely manner. This past Saturday night, a police officer responded to a noise complaint in a private residence on the 300 block of 2nd Street. There's a gathering of many Black and brown friends. We're in a celebratory mood, and we're talking to one another, listening to music. And instead of ringing the doorbell or announcing himself, the excuse me, thank you. Announcing himself to the police gathered in the courtyard, the officer opened a private gate and entered the private property. Everything that followed was a result of this act. If the officer's refusal to step off the property before addressing the owner of the house. The officer tried to convince the owner, Dr. Kamika Campbell, that he had the right to be on her property. She informed him that he had the right to come on the property and issue a citation, but not to step foot in their enclosed yard without a warrant, without announcing his presence. Instead of admitting his transgression, the officer assumed the offensive posture, escalating the situation should not have occurred in the first place, using mace on civilians who pose no threat while standing on private property, and illegally detaining Dr. Campbell, grabbing her and pulling her from the property without citing any grounds for arrest. After roughly cuffing her and forcing her into his car, he drove her to Dauphin County Prison for booking. She was held in a cell for 2 hours. She was released without charges, and the citations that the officer could have issued had he knocked on the door, reported the complaint, written and left a citation were then issued. Harrisburg Borough Police will try to put a spin on this story to say that they are sure to create a narrative that a loud, angry Black woman verbally accosted a police officer who acted professionally and followed procedures. Too many times when officers violate the laws they are sworn to uphold, they use distraction techniques to shift the blame to the victim. But let's be clear, this incident was escalated by Officer Hoover, who simply issued a citation and left. A woman raising her voice because an intruder refuses to step on her property is not a crime, no matter who the intruder is. We're calling Officer Brandon Hoover to be fired and discharged in such a way that he will not be hired at another police department in this nation. We're calling the administrative action against policemen who responded for backup, yet didn't de-escalate the situation to put him in check. We're demanding that Corporal Chapman, who was supervising the officer yet declined to be intervened, will be reprimanded and allowing Dr. Campbell to be detained without cause. More than that, we're asking city council members to publicly acknowledge the egregious act and make a commitment to hold the Harrisburg police accountable. This incident is not isolated, it is a part of a greater pattern within the city, county, state, nation. We need assurances that the police will no longer be allowed to break law and terrorize people at will. And that when they do, they will be held accountable. The same standards citizens are when they break the law. Finally, I would like to implore City Council to figure out ways to resolve nuisances without calling police. I'm thankful that no one was killed at the hands of police. Incident had all kind of markers and hashtags involving the loss of Black Lives Matters in the hands of police. Your annoyances should not be so great that you're willing to see someone murdered. Brandon Basom writes, the citizens of Harrisburg have waited since Saturday night for a statement from the mayor, Commissioner Carter, or anybody from the Harrisburg Bureau of Police regarding what is being done about Officer Hoover and how he cowardly brutalized Black women and activists for no discernible reason at Hurston Manor last Saturday evening. So silence has been deafening. We demand to know why Officer Cumming and Corporal Chapman failed to intervene and stop illegal actions of Officer Hoover. There's no police accountability to the community. The social contract is broken. The police can't ask for support of the community while refusing to be answerable to us. No justice, no peace. If your answers you may be able to provide will be appreciated. The next public comment is submitted by Andrea Seja. Many of my neighbors were completely disturbed and disappointed, righteously angry after hearing the events that transpired in Shipoke on the night of November 7th. Officer Hoover and his colleagues abused their power of police officers by trespassing, failing to identify themselves, and escalating the situation by using unnecessary force and violence during a simple noise complaint. This is a clear misuse of power and a violation of the rights of the property owner and those that were present that day. The citizens of Harrisburg demand Mayor Pappenfuss to immediately fire the officer from the police department and City Council to immediately adopt the amendments that Harrisburg Community Review Board Working Group has proposed to Bill 8. Deborah Nafziger submitted the following comment. On Saturday, November 7th, there was an incident at Dr. Campbell's private property in which Harrisburg police officer named Brandon Hoover illegally came to her yard, announced, maced, and group of people and arrested Dr. Campbell. You'll be hearing about the events in full detail from others submitting comments. The key things to note are Officer Hoover stepped on the property unannounced. When confronted, he said that he was responding to a noise complaint. Someone had turned the music off shortly after Officer Hoover arrived. Several people tried to de-escalate the situation, and Dr. Campbell told the officer to leave her yard. He said he had the right to come on someone's private property in response to a noise complaint. And Dr. Campbell said, yes, you have the right to come to my property, not on my property. Officer Hoover backed up and outside the gate and put his foot in the doorway, so they could not shut the gate. He called for backup. When backup arrived, Officer Hoover maced the people who were trying to de-escalate, even though they were complying with orders and not threatening him. Officer Hoover then re-entered the property, grabbed Dr. Campbell, and pulled her out to arrest her. He took away, and the remaining officers, Clint Cummings and Corporal Chapman, refused to answer her husband's or anyone's questions about where they took Dr. Campbell and why. Eventually Dr. Campbell was released, and she called her husband to pick her up. These actions on the part of Officer Hoover, Officer Cummings, and Corporal Chapman are egregious and unacceptable. They continue to highlight that Black people are not safe in Harrisburg and in their own private properties at their home. I'm writing to demand that Officer Hoover be fired without pay, without being transferred or rehired. He should not be a police officer because he blatantly disregarded the law when entering someone's private property unannounced with a warrant. He escalated the situation rapidly and unwarrantedly, and he endangered the lives of every person he was sworn to protect who was present that night. Harrisburg police should be held accountable to law, policies, and procedures instead of acting however they want and disregarding the rights of Harrisburg citizens. The amendments presented in Bill 8 to establish the Community Law Enforcement Review Board be immediately implemented, because the incident is exact reason why we need oversight in the police and real power in the hands of the community. The next comment is submitted by Alexandra Gannett. As a Harrisburg City community member, I am appalled by the actions of Officer Hoover against Dr. Kamika Campbell and the other activists at Dr. Campbell's private residence in Hurston Manor on 11/7. First, I demand that Mayor Pappenfuss fire Officer Hoover immediately. This community would not stand for unlawful actions by our police officers. This continued abuse against Black activists and Black women specifically is unacceptable and does nothing to repair the relationship between community members and police. Secondly, I demand that the City Council adopt the amendments that Harrisburg Community Review Board is working and has proposed to Bill 8 without delay. This action will go a long way to the community to show their safety when interacting with police is a priority. The next comment is submitted by Ona Osei. For weeks, the Harrisburg Community Review Board Working Group, led by Dr. Kamika Campbell, has been working tirelessly to amend the proposed Bill 8 to allow Citizen Review Board with actual teeth in the city of Harrisburg. We have heard every excuse imaginable why this is not possible within the city of Harrisburg. On Saturday night, The same activist and my friend, Dr. Kamika Campbell, was placed under arrest at her private residence in Shipoke after a neighbor called in a noise complaint and an officer made a warrantless entry onto her property. My friends in attendance were maced. Officer Hoover and Kamika was charged by Officer Hoover, and Kamika was charged with disorderly conduct after she repeatedly asked the uninvited officer to remove himself from her property. Nobody, not even a police officer, has the right to enter someone's private property without an invitation or a warrant. This was a noise complaint, and the officer had no reason to believe that harm would be done to himself or anyone else. If an officer enters someone's home without a warrant or a belief that someone is in danger, they should expect to be treated in the same manner the citizen who breaks into someone's home. We all have a right to privacy and to protect our homes and loved ones. The city of Harrisburg is a predominantly people of color. We deserve to be safe from police aggression in the capital city. We deserve to be treated with dignity and respect from all persons who hold any public office and or jobs within the city. We're calling on Mayor Pfaffenfuss to use his executive powers to fire Officer Hoover for his egregious behavior that night. He has proven that he views Black people exercising their freedoms on private property as the reason to assault and physical harm upon them. Officer Hoover had no reason to fear for his safety and the safety of others. At the time he was trigger happy with pepper spray. If he had allowed to remain on the force, imagine what could be trigger happy with next time. It has never been more evident that City Council must provide the city with a board that can hold the police force accountable because the mayor is unable to execute its lawful duties in this regard. Mayor Pfaffenfuss, the next comment is submitted by Lindsay Kirkwood. Mayor Pfaffenfuss must take this opportunity to take real action in support of our community members. Showing up at a protest or two is not action. The mayor has an opportunity to show real commitment to change, a true understanding and dangers that Black people in our city face at the hands of the Harrisburg Police Department. Mayor Pfaffenfuss must immediately move to fire Officer Hoover for blatant mishandling and abuse of power exercised over the weekend. Additionally, Harrisburg City Council members must show that they are truly invested in listening to the community by adopting all amendments that the Harrisburg Community Review Board Working Group has proposed to Bill 8. Now is time for the action, not complacency or platitudes. Takira Brown submitted the following comment. My name is Takira Brown, and my son's name is Rajay Terrell Brown. I reside in Harrisburg, and on September 4th, I was out of the town at a cottage at Camp Hebron where I take my kids to get away from the city. And it's also a place to reconnect with their father due to him passing in October of 2015. My son, who was on juvenile probation, was approved to also go to the campsite with us and the family member, as we have done before. Mr. Kyle Hauser, a Dauphin County parole officer, had approved my son, who was an all-A student after losing his father and me being shot and being paralyzed in 2016. My son had lost all hope, and Judge Marshall had just commended my son on how good he was doing and took him off extensive probation. His parole officer was not happy, and he expressed that, but Judge Marshall see my son and had been on probation since he was 14 for minor offenses, and he expressed that to the parole officer also. I was getting him back on track and scheduled to start school, and he has a son also who's been working for UPS and trying to get his life straight. With the help of me putting him in school and getting him counsel, because no one has provided me the help he has needed. That particular day, my oldest daughter didn't get off work until 5 o'clock. We went to the grocery store and we were on our way to the campsite around 8. Due to a car situation, we had to make two trips. While up at the campsite, Harrisburg police and juvenile probation officer entered my house without anyone's permission. My son's friend had a gun and was told that he was told that the police, it was his. While up there, my daughter called me, and the police and the parole officers refused to speak to me or tell me what was going on. They locked up my mom for a warrant and gave my son all his friends' charges and locked him up in Abraxas without telling me anything. My daughter told me they choked my son in the room and they went to the house and tore up everything. When I came home, I went straight to the police department because I don't sell drugs or anything, and I didn't understand why they ripped my house apart. I didn't know where my son was or didn't have any information on him. I tried to file a complaint, and the officer said she would not file against the place that she works for. Last week, I received charges in the mail. How am I being charged with drugs that I didn't have or I wasn't there? What kind of corrupt stuff is going on in Harrisburg? How can someone charge me if I wasn't there? My son was not even supposed to be home because of all us leaving that night. We had to make 2 trips. The police officer or probation officer who came to my house told my mom that there was a curfew check, but my son was approved not to be home. Does that make sense? They literally also pushed my mom down and she tried to get up the steps and already walked with a limp. Not only that, my son had already lost hope in the system. So how am I checking and how am I being charged for something that I didn't do? And I wasn't even there. I have proof of all this if someone can get back to me. I go to court in February. I hope someone in Harrisburg will give me a call and you left their contact information. The next comment is submitted by Vishal Bajpai. I was originally planning on going over the facts of the incident that occurred this past Saturday. However, it has become clear from the mayor's comments on Facebook that Eric plans to make the facts an issue. A noise complaint was called on the gathering of predominantly Black folks at Hurston Manor late Saturday evening. The responding officer, Officer Hoover, let himself into the backyard without asking for any discernible reason. We noticed that the lights from outside the yard, presumably from the police car, and investigated. However, by then, Officer Hoover was already in the yard. Guests asked the officer to leave the yard, and the officer told us they had come due to a noise complaint, and we turned off the music repeatedly ourselves to leave our property. Officer Hoover did not comply. Instead, he continued to escalate the situation despite guests' repeated attempts to de-escalate. Officer Hoover refused to leave the yard, refused to shut the gate, and took every opportunity he could to continue the confrontation. Culminated in Officer Hoover deploying mace and non-threatening guests and arresting Dr. Campbell. After the kidnapping of Dr. Campbell, the officers continued to be unhelpful. They would not tell us the department they were from and jurisdiction they covered. I had to check their cars to find out. They would not tell us Dr. Campbell was taken. They would not tell us how to file a complaint or how to gain access to body cam footage. With the facts out of the way, I want to turn to show how poorly this reflects on the Harrisburg Police Department. An officer entered a private property without permission. He couldn't have had a compelling reason to enter the property to save or protect anyone. The only sounds that we made were celebratory and joyous. Even if the officer had tried to fail or to summon us to the gate, the officer had a number of options to get our attention instead of trespassing onto the property. The officer could have run his sirens or flickered his lights or knocked on the gate loudly. Instead, the course of the officer ended up making more noise while responding to a noise complaint. We are in the middle of a pandemic caused by a respiratory virus. Our outdoor and distance gathering turned us rushing around, watery-eyed and coughing when mace was deployed. Despite the best efforts, we are compelled into less safe conditions. This, of course, is more true for Dr. Campbell, who was abducted from her home and put into contact with possible vectors. Council member Green, Madsen, Daniels, and Bowers, you have all expressed privately that you believe policing in the U.S. Is informed by white supremacy. All of you have expressed that you want to increase accountability. All of you expressed that interest in hearing incidents where the police act out of turn. Here's your opportunity. We need neither Harrisburg Police Department or Eric's permission to be mad. Unfortunately, because residents have no way to hold police accountable, we need the city's permission to do anything about it. I see no way forward other than firing Officer Hoover and reprimanding the supervisor, Corporal Chapman. Furthermore, the incident underscores the importance of having strong citizens review board, especially given Eric's musings on Facebook. It is improper for a city official, particularly the head of an executive, to be making final decisions regarding facts and picking a side online in such a fashion. It reveals the government sympathizes and reinforces our point that citizens need control. This is our city, just not Eric's. Sorry. On a related note, the city continues to do its job and rely on citizen volunteers. Yesterday, resident activists with Greater Harrisburg Tenants United successfully stopped an eviction. It's mind-boggling that the city does nothing while people are evicted in winter during a pandemic. It is clear to me that current makeup of city government is not at all concerned with the lived experience of so many city residents. Next comment is submitted by Andrew Hollinger. Thank you for considering all diverse perspectives in our little city. Many opinions arise in conversations around police, most of which quite polarized. One thing that everyone can find in common is that we want to feel safe in our city. Whether you're a person who feels safe in the presence of a police or whether you're threatened, it depends on who you are and how you're viewed in society. On November 7th, Harrisburg police officer Brandon Hoover illegally entered the property of community activist Dr. Kamika Campbell in response to a noise complaint. After the issue has been solved with the music turned off, Officer Hoover had asked to leave and in refusing to do so, escalated the situation by resulting in deployment of pepper spray and the arrest of Dr. Campbell. This is absolutely shameful. The breach of privacy, excessive use of force, and noise complaint is the exact reason why Harrisburg needs to hold our public servants accountable for their actions. We can't trust our police. We can't trust our public servants. We need a citizen review board with adequate transparency, oversight to make change and not just suggestions. We need amendments put forth by the Harrisburg Community Review Board Working Group. If we cannot trust our servants to protect us, we must protect ourselves. Our community demands the firing of Officer Brandon Hoover. We demand Officer Hoover's supervisor to be reprimanded, and we demand Bill 8 to be adopted. We demand transparency, accountability, and trust for our public servants. Thank you for considering, and thank you for your service. The next comment is submitted by Chelsea Howard Foley, property owner and taxpayer in the city of Harrisburg. As a citizen, I am demanding that the Officer Brandon Hoover and the Harrisburg Police Department is fired for abusing his powers and an officer unlawfully retaining Dr. Campbell. Additionally, he needs to be stripped of all his benefits and pension for his conduct. The next comment is submitted by Jesse Pierce. Late Saturday evening, Harrisburg police officer Hoover entered the property of Dr. Campbell's without warning, consent, or identification, and used mace on a celebratory gathering of her colleagues, arrested her for no clear reason, and detained her early in the morning. This unnecessary use of force without warrant confirms that Black and brown residents are already know that they are not safe from police violence, even in their own homes. Furthermore, Dr. Campbell has been steadfast in calling for improvement of Harrisburg public safety protocols. She and her colleagues and the Harrisburg Young Professionals of Color have been working tirelessly to call City Council to provide concrete and enforceable avenues to hold the Harrisburg Police Department accountable. It fills me with fury and dismay to learn that she was abducted and brutalized by the very institution she is working so hard to improve. I would like to join my fellow community members in calling for Officer Hoover to be fired and his supervisor to be formally reprimanded. There's absolutely no excuse for this behavior. Another job position, he would be sacked without question. Should City Council shirk the opportunity to adopt the amendments of Bill 8 that is repeatedly brought up in your attention, it will be yet another disrespect to Dr. Campbell, her colleagues, and all the people of color in Harrisburg who endure ongoing police violence with no recourse for holding them accountable. By this time, the comment is read by City Council on your decision regarding Bill 8. My question for you is, if the police officer bursts in your backyard without warning or explanation, maced your friends, and kidnapped you from your own property for no discernible reason, would you feel confident that the current version of the Citizens Law Enforcement Advisory Council would provide you with adequate recourse for holding them accountable? What if it happened to your spouse, your parents, your child? What does this council protect? The next comment is submitted by Melissa Hunsberger. Police interaction continues to be an ongoing discussion with City Council and our unified efforts to uplift citizen voices while passing policies and procedures that further mirror this desire to be on top prioritized discussion piece. While we continue to fight towards progressive changes, further incidents of police misconduct highlighted the need to not only pass the proposed legislation with citizen input, but we must take pause every incident of the police misconduct to shed further light on its ongoing effect in our community. On November 7th marked another day where police overstep and increased confidence and jaded rationale led to Harrisburg Police Bureau onto the property of community activists of color. It is no secret that Dr. Kamika Campbell has been an advocate for the amendments of proposed Bill 8, Citizens Law Enforcement Advisory Committee. With this as her position and her reality, she has lived reality in targeting known far too many people of Black leadership pushing agendas to serve the specific needs of Black and brown people of color in Harrisburg. The actions of the police, which include unlawful entering her property, refusal for self-identification, and unwarranted escalation, which prompted making the subsequent arrest. The unaccounted and excessive use of force and baiting by police continues to provide spaces of fear, intimidation, and violence in the city of Harrisburg. In City Council's continued role for the advocate for community members, we are asking the City Council to adopt all amendments proposed without further delay, eliminating every possible area where abuse of power can occur. We pushed again as a community to urge members of City Council how events such as those on November 7th can be best managed, and we already formulated and passed this overdue community oversight and accountability method. We can no longer wait or debate about it. The time to act is now. The next comment is submitted by Haniel Sindelar. I appreciate the work of this council, and while I've been advocating for the community proposed amendments to Bill 8 in the past, I feel the need to specifically address the egregious acts by Harrisburg police officer Brandon Hoover this weekend. I've heard concerned citizens about the effectiveness of the advisory council be repeatedly dismissed. Meanwhile, officers in our city continue to face consequences for their unlawful and dangerous conduct. It is impossible to believe at this point that our police department has the ability to properly address community concerns of their own or willingness to use their infrastructure to hold responsible officers accountable. And now active community members are facing illegal actions at the hands of Harrisburg police, with seemingly no reports even filed for available for the public to view. It's absolutely aberrant, and anyone saying otherwise should be downright ashamed of themselves. It's time for council to take action and move this conversation forward in community proposed amendments, including unobstructed access and independent investigation that must be included. And the community review board must be founded. Further action must be taken to ensure that Officer Hoover's dangerous and irresponsible behavior is not repeated. It is completely unacceptable and needs to be addressed immediately. The next comment is submitted by Jennifer Hartman. Police interaction continues to be ongoing discussion with City Council. Our unified efforts further uplift citizen voices while passing policies and procedures that further mirror the desire has been the top prioritized discussion in a piece. While we continue to fight towards the progressive changes, further incidents of police misconduct highlight the need to not only pass the proposed legislation with the citizens' input, but we need to take pause for every incident of misconduct shed in our future, to further shed light on the ongoing effect in our community. November 7, 2020 marked another day where the police overstepped and increased confidence and a jaded rationale led to Harrisburg Police Bureau onto the prevalent community activists of color. It is no secret that Dr. Campbell has been an advocate for the amendments. With this being her position, in reality, she has lived in a reality targeting known far too many Black leadership pushing agendas that serve the specific needs of Black and brown people of color in Harrisburg. The actions of police, which include unlawful entering the property, refusal for self-identification, and unwarranted escalation, which prompted making subsequent arrests. This unaccounted and excessive force and baiting by police continues to provide spaces of fear, intimidation, and violence in the city of Harrisburg. In the city council's continued role to speak for the advocate for our community members, we are asking the city to adopt the amendments proposed without further delay, eliminating every possible area of abuse of power can occur. We push again as a community to urge members of council consider how events such as those of November 7th, 2020 can be managed and formulated and passed. This long overdue community oversight and accountability method. We can no longer wait or debate about it. The time to act is now. Next comment is submitted by Kamika Campbell. Dear council members and Eric, I want you to know that no amount of blame, shifting, or twisting the narrative of events that happened Saturday night, November 7th, is going to erase the trauma that Officer Brandon Hoover inflicted on me. Thanks to his response to a noise complaint, I have been unable to concentrate and have had bouts of emotional numbness and emotional distress. I understand that a gathering on my property, which started as a joyful event after nearly a week of nail biting over this presidential election, elicited a complaint from a neighbor. Had the officer come to my front door and asked to speak to me, I would have accepted the citation, paid it, and been done with it. I never disputed the legitimacy of the complaint, though I hope that one of the outcomes of this event that we as neighbors will not call the cops for nuisance complaints. The police are criminally unequipped to deal with simple citation, and evidently when white cops respond to calls that involve gatherings of Black people, they feel threatened enough to use weapons to defend themselves. I can't imagine that a police officer responding to the majority of a white gathering in Midtown would respond in the same manner or escalate the situation as quickly and forcefully as Officer Hoover did. What I do to take issue with an officer entered in my property for any reason without express permission. Even the officer had a warrant to enter the property. He is required by law to identify himself and speak to the owner before stepping on the grounds. The area of my courtyard Officer Hoover has entered and enclosed is secured by a gate. Officer Hoover took upon himself to open the secured gate and enter my property without identifying himself. It had not been intercepted by a guest who had asked if she could help him. He would have walked up to my back door and without ever identifying himself. Officer Hoover was challenged on his right to enter my property. I felt as a citizen, a resident of Harrisburg, and a property owner that no discussion with him should take place until he stepped off of my property. I did not dispute his right to respond to a noise complaint or to come on my property, but was incensed with he assumed that my rights under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution were invalid. When he refused to leave, despite being asked repeatedly and calmly to leave my property, I raised my voice. I raised my voice because too often Black people experience violence at the hands of police, and I felt that it was crucial that my neighbors hear me and witness what was going on. I especially wanted the person who filed the complaint to see the consequences of their actions. Only after I raised my voice did Officer Hoover retreat to the gate. For some reason, he felt that he was important to keep the gate open. At any point in the interaction, he could have written and issued a citation. He chose to instead take an offensive posture, to call backup, and to threaten my friends with bodily harm. When his backup arrived, my friends and I were confronted by 3 hostile white officers, all whom had their hands on their mace and on their weapons. Officer Hoover told me to step back or he would mace me. I was inside my gate in the property and in no way threatening him. I complied immediately, and yet when I stepped back, Officer Hoover reached around my friend, who put her body between us in a protective and brave act. I put her, and grabbed my sweatshirt. I was genuinely confused. He told me to step back and tried to pull me forward. I stepped back and fell to the ground. At this point, he maced my friend Rachel, who was still asking him to step out of the gate and let her close it. After incapacitating her, he again entered my property, dragged me to his car, and handcuffed me. At no point did he say why he was arresting me, nor did he read rights to me. He drove me to the Dauphin County Prison, where I was dragged out of the car and put me in a cell with a used blanket, putting me at risk of contracting COVID-19. 2 hours later, I was released from the cell and I was told I can go free. The officers at the desk spoke to me cheerfully, as if I walked into prison out of my own will, to ask them a question about a citation I had been written. I want to make it clear that Officer Hoover, from time to time, from the time he walked into prison, tried to spin the story to make it sound if he would be following procedure and I'd assaulted him. I expect that these lies were repeated by Eric Pappenfuss, who believes he has the real story. He neither witnessed the events nor questioned any of the witnesses who were there. The cover-up is exactly what we, Civilian Review Board, is not connected to the police department or the mayor's office. A board that assists on police accountability and transparency, and at least until we can defund or abolish the police. I'm tired of hearing how the police are here to serve and protect us. I'm tired of hearing how stressed they are and how difficult their jobs are. We're tired of stress and we're fearful for our lives. City council members need to get it together and decide whether they're here to represent the people who elected them, or to cater to police so they can decide who needs to be replaced in the next election cycle. I want to see Officer Hoover fired. I want to assure that he will never have the chance to terrorize another person with the protection of his uniform. I want the officers who responded, did nothing to de-escalate their colleague, to be reprimanded. And I want Corporal Chapman disciplined for refusing to intervene as a supervisor when he clearly saw that his officer was out of line and out of control. None of this will heal my emotional trauma. None of this will make up for what was taken from me, but I'm tired of police acting like thugs and getting away with it. It has to end now. And the final comment submitted is by Matthew Cossack. Writes, I think it's sickening how the officer Hoover violated the sanctity of my friend's home, assaulted her, then kidnapped her. That doesn't sound like a threat to our community. I don't know what is. Fix it or get out of the people's way. Either you have power or we have to do it ourselves. And that's all for the public comments.
Okay, Mr. Kowski, thank you very, very much for the courtesy of the floor portion. We now will, Mayor Pappenfuss, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I'll be brief. I'll just say a couple things, because I know council members had called me, and there's a lot of interest from the public in what happened. I have had an opportunity to review the body camera footage, so I am basing my comments on what I saw on the tape. This is something which happened is the comments referenced on late Saturday night. It was about 11:30 p.m. on November 7th. It was in Shipoke at the home of a resident. The police were called because they received a noise complaint about loud music being played at that address. The complaint was from a neighbor It was verified and it was responded to. It's a quality of life issue, and the police were there to investigate. The officer came. The homeowner refused to identify herself and grew increasingly irate. At several points, the officer tried to de-escalate the situation, saying, "Hey, just let me have your name, and I'm out of here." And tried very hard, but it grew increasingly hostile and profanity laced. The officer received a lot of verbal abuse. He called for backup. And when the backup came, the decision was made to arrest the homeowner for disorderly conduct. And at that point as well, a clear warning was given. Several members of the crowd were blocking the police officers from being able to arrest the individual in question. A clear warning was given that if they didn't disperse, pepper spray would be used. After that warning, pepper spray was utilized, and the individual was arrested, charged with disorderly conduct and charged with violating the noise ordinance. Just a couple comments. It is absolutely legal for the police officer to have entered the yard to investigate the complaint, which was lawfully received. The police officer obviously identified himself. He flashed his lights. This was referenced by several of the commentators before opening the gate, and was uniformed and was recognized as a police officer. Public needs to understand that citations can't just be issued without somebody as being identified. You have to have more than just a name. You have to have a name and a date of birth in order for the citation to be enforceable, which was all that the officer was asking for. I wanted to make clear to everyone that we will release the full body camera footage. I did see that today. We will release it in an effort of complete transparency, either tonight or tomorrow, as soon as we have it. Police are working on that right now as we speak. You'll see from the video footage that obviously the officers didn't know who these individuals were. There was some implication online that perhaps they were targeted because of their outspokenness on Bill 8. And just two general editorial comments, if you'll allow me, on my end. One, there is a lot of concern right now, and justifiably so, about the uptick in shootings that we're experiencing in the city of Harrisburg. This situation, which could have been easily addressed by cooperation, ended up wasting a lot of people's time and energies, and is exactly is not helpful to the overall policing efforts. And I think you'll see that on the tape. And also the fact that we now have a petition circulating, as well as numerous commentators calling for this young officer to be fired without people having actually seen the body camera footage is really, really disturbing. This is a good young man who acted very well, never lost his composure, did exactly what you would hope a police officer would do. And we have an issue with recruitment and retention of our police officers in the city of Harrisburg. And if they aren't even able to properly address a quality of life issue like a noise complaint, it's going to make it very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. And to put this officer's name out there, and again, to have nearly 1,000 people sign a petition calling for them to be fired without knowing the facts is really reprehensible. And Harrisburg, we can do better, and we must do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I certainly agree with the mayor. I had an opportunity about 25 minutes ago before the beginning of our legislative session to look at the camcorder as well. I ask each of you council members, please, if you can, Mayor, would you ask Commissioner Carter to not release the tape until council members had an opportunity to view it themselves?
Well, council could view it tonight, but we're going to release the tape as soon as possible in the interest of transparency. There's too much inaccuracy, which has been posted online, and there's a lot of media inquiries for the event. So if council would like to see it this evening, they certainly can after this meeting.
Okay. Council members, are you interested in looking at the tape this evening?
Yeah,
I would say I'd love to see it at some point, but I would go ahead and I encourage releasing the information too, so the public has it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Allard, I could not hear you. What did you say?
I said I would like to see the tape, but I do not want it delayed being released.
Okay. I can make arrangements with Commissioner Carter if anyone wants to come down tonight and see if he is available as we speak.
yes, if we could make that available, that would be good with me. And I guess for me, I think we shouldn't editorialize before the information is released. That, look, this is a very contentious issue, but editorializing the way that folks are without all the facts being public seems to, I guess, in an attempt to try to sway the court of public opinion, from our perspective, seems a little bit too much. We do have, if these are members of the union, there's a process to adjudicate any claims against them. And I think that should be the process that we undertake rather than editorializing on this matter.
Okay. The tape certainly relays a different story from what is being said by some of the comments tonight, Mr. Major. So anyone who, please just let me know who wants to see the tape, and I will contact the commissioner immediately to let him know that it's coming down.
I would like to see the body camera footage as well, please.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bowers. Ms. Bowers, Mr. Allard, Mr. Mattson? Mr. Mattson?
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Okay, Ms. Daniels?
I don't know, because I actually have a lot of work to do, so I don't think I could
Okay.
really look at things until the middle of tomorrow. So I'd rather just go ahead and release it and know
Okay, Ms. Green.
once it comes out.
Yes, I'd like to see the footage. I don't know if I'll be able to make it down this evening. I do not want it delayed waiting for view it. On the, just on another note, I also agree with Councilman Majors, and that we shouldn't be providing editorial remarks about the footage. We should let it speak for itself. And I think that's a good precedent to set with any body camera footage or anything that we release. We want to make for sure that it speaks for itself. We don't want to sway the narrative or try to provide a narrative, whether it's trying to correct a narrative that's already out there. I believe it's important to allow the footage to speak for itself. That's the point of the body camera footage. But it's important for us to be just swift with releasing footage, even if we don't believe it supports the narrative that we're trying to put out there.
Thank you. If you hold on a minute, just hold on a minute, council members, please. Thank you, council members. I just was in conversation with Commissioner Carter. He will be available. Just let me know right after the meeting. Please proceed down to City Hall. Thank you. Moving on to approval of minutes. Approval of legislative session minutes of October the 27th, 2020. Is there any omissions, deletions, or corrections, council members? Hearing none, minutes will stand approved. We now move on to reports of committee. We have none this evening. We move on to ordinance for first reading. We have none as well. We move on to ordinance for amendment. We have none. Moving on to ordinance for final passage. Mr. Petrosky, please read Bill 8 of 2020 into record.
Bill 8 of 2020 is an ordinance amending Part 5 of the Administrative Code under Chapter 2-500, adding thereto Chapter 2-515 to establish a Citizens Law Enforcement Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Council members, are there any additional questions or comments? And Ms. Green, anything additional as the chair?
No, I don't really have anything additional. I do believe that the linked piece of legislation to this agenda might not be the most updated one that we voted on the last amendment. So if we could just make sure that the most current version is available with the most updated language, I would appreciate that. But other than that, I don't have any other comments.
Are there other comments, council members? Thank you, Ms. Green. I just want to commend you for all the hard work that you've done on this Bill 8. But I do have a statement to make, and I would like to make that statement now. Just bear with me, please, everyone. For weeks, the Public Safety Chair has been working diligently to incorporate legislation to create a Citizens Law Enforcement Advisory Committee and created Bill 8, which establishes this committee. I am in full agreement that there needs to be a process to reform, but all parties need to sit down at the table to address issues affecting our city: systemic racism, housing, slum landlords, education, healthcare, homelessness, and other issues regarding the quality of life in the city of Harrisburg. Members of the judicial system play an important role, and we are very much aware of the flawed system that presently exists. It goes beyond the police. It includes the district justices, the court judges, probation officers, correction officers, all who are part of the judicial system that needs to be reformed. I support the police officers, and if I am accused of supporting them, it's because I know there are honorable police officers who some are older, wiser, and seasoned. Yes, all cities, counties, and states have a few bad officers. My support is for the honorable officers, not the dishonorable ones, but it is not fair to put all patrolmen in the same category because they all are not bad. The city of Harrisburg needs to develop a process to weed out the few bad ones, but the process we utilize should not make the good officers look bad. One part of the Bill 8 that I do not agree with is defunding of a police department. It should never be used as a tool. City Council by law already has the legislative power to mandate that information be disseminated to members upon a request. Right to know law also mandates that information be released within a certain period of time if there is a formal written request. The other part that I'm not really reluctant and want to put on there, but I'm really reluctant to do it, is the administrative subpoenas. As part of the bill should be excluded. It is not a legal binding document that a party or police administrator has to adhere to. The establishment of this committee goes and gives this committee no authority to set policy, nor hold police officer accountable, only to be in an advisory position and make recommendations to council on issues that will improve relationships with public safety and not be a hindrance in allowing officers to do their job. As a council member, I want community input where we have reasonable thinkers and we don't relinquish the power of a police force that cripples them from providing our citizens with protection. An example is that you have a basket of fruit. Would you throw out the entire basket of fruit because of one rotten piece, or take out the bad piece and keep the rest of the good fruit? Reducing any level of public safety from our city is a criminal's best dream. It is my hope that this initiative to establish this committee becomes a partnership between the community and our law enforcement. With all the unrest around the nation, the city of Harrisburg wants to bring unity to our city. We cannot weaken the very system that protects us. Our community wants to know police protection is stronger, not weak, especially when an emergency crisis happens. I can speak personally about holding the police department accountable. For 16 years, as I've been on council, for every incident that involves an officer, I immediately contact the commissioner and inquire about the incident and request to see a video of that encounter. Finally, I'm not supporting this legislation in its current form. If we can take the issues that I addressed and go back to the table with all parties. And now we need to look at our senator, our US Senator, Casey, our state senator, Scott Perry, our state senator, DeSantos, and certainly our representative, Patty Kim. We all need to come together and formulate a reform that addresses all the issues. We cannot change anyone's heart who has been taught racism, but we can change the perception of how individuals see each other. And as an added note, I want to make sure that the residents who had a statement to make tonight about city council running for reelection and won't be reelected, I can assure you that if I want to run for reelection, I would, but I am not, and I'm not choosing to run for additional 4-year term. And on that note, does anyone else have any questions? Please call the vote, Mr. Petrosky.
Calling the vote for Bill 8, Mr. Allett,
Yes.
Ms. Bowers,
Yes.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Madsen,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
No,
Bill 8 passes.
thank you very much. Moving on to Resolution 86 of 2020.
Resolution 86 of 2020 is a resolution approving the 6th proposed 2020 budget reallocation.
Mr. Allett, would you like to suspend the rules?
Yes, I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Allett.
Thank you. So coming down tonight was Resolution 86 of 2020. Is a resolution approving the 6th proposed 2020 budget reallocation. Mayor, are you taking the lead on discussion of this, or is somebody else?
I'm happy to. I can take the lead on one of the items, and Wayne Martin can speak to the other item. But the item I wanted to address you all on tonight, and the item which is particularly time sensitive, has to do with the allocation request to purchase toters for the municipality of Pembroke and possibly for the municipality of Paxtang. We, as you know, have been engaged in conversations with both boroughs about an intergovernmental agreement that would be modeled on the same agreement that we entered into previously with Steelton to take over trash and recycling services. We were very pleased when last week the borough of Pembroke voted to reject the private bids and to move forward with an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Harrisburg. We will have that intergovernmental agreement to both legislative bodies to pass here shortly, but because of the lead time on the toters, we have to place the toter order now. The toters take a minimum of 6 weeks to be developed, and the contract would begin on January 1. We have a little more time for Paxtang. Paxtang's contract does not begin until February, and they will not have their official vote until next week. They've only had work sessions on it. And obviously, if they chose not to move ahead with the city, we would not order those toters. But the reallocation includes enough money to purchase toters for both Pembroke and Paxtang. It's fairly straightforward. It's the same thing we did for Steelton. We first purchased the toters ahead of time, and then we memorialized it in the intergovernmental agreement. And I would ask the council would pass that this evening.
So I just wanted to clarify based on what you said too. So Paxtang has not decided they will vote on it, you think, as early as next week. So even if we've allocated right now, we will not order the toters until we have confirmation that Paxtang has acted in accordance with moving forward with us.
That's correct. The allocation request has enough to purchase toters for both boroughs. Only Pembroke has voted to move forward with the city at this time. And unless Paxtang votes next week to move forward, we would only order the toters for Pembroke. But we're requesting the full allocation now so that we have the flexibility to get those orders in before the end of the year so that we can make sure that there's no interrupted service for the residents of those local boroughs.
Gotcha. I'm just, by a show of hands, does anyone have a specific question on this portion of the reallocation? I'll go ahead, Councilmember Daniels, and then we'll go to Councilmember Majors next. Councilmember Daniels?
Yes, so has the agreement between Steelton and the city of Harrisburg been audited since it started?
Not sure what you mean by audited, but would you like information about how successful the agreement is working? Or it was passed by both legislative bodies, as you know, and it's been a very successful agreement that it has not only produced revenues for the city, but also the feedback from the residents of Steelton has been very, very positive. They're very pleased with the service the city's offering.
Yeah, I would like a breakdown of what's been happening with that agreement. Personally, being on Parks and Rec, I've seen a lot of money transfer over from Parks and Rec to Public Works, and I don't know why that's been happening. So I would like to know, are we inadvertent? Are we somehow subsidizing this services in some area that we aren't really thinking about? So if I could see the numbers for the Steelton Harrisburg agreement, that would be informative. But specifically to, so the other question, the contract with Pembroke doesn't specifically, they haven't yet decided whether they're using they would be using containers provided by us or not, or the toters by us or not. So has things changed since the agreement that was sent to us this afternoon?
So you said a number of things there. I didn't follow you on money going from Parks to Public Works. We don't have to get into that now. But Pembroke is expecting us to provide toters. We are not only providing trash and recycling toters, but for Pembroke, unlike Steelton and Harrisburg, they also have a third toter for yard waste. That is part of the agreement and has always been part of their needs in Pembroke. And we're also required to do the same were we to enter into an agreement with Pax Tang.
So is there an updated contract? Because the one in the contract I saw this afternoon, it still seemed as though Pembroke had the option. So it sounds like that decision has been made.
There was never any option other than the city providing the toters for Pembroke, as we did for Steelton. The private hauler currently owns those toters and will be removing them at the end of the year. And as regards the contract in Steelton, I believe Mark Woolley is on the call, and he could address some of the issues with regard to that portfolio. And I will just say there is one interesting difference between Pembroke and Pax Tang. In those instances, we will not be billing the residents directly, as we do in Harrisburg and as we do in Steelton. They actually pay the municipality, and the municipality pays us a fixed sum, which means that basically any delinquency is really between the municipality and the residents, not the city of Harrisburg. So it's a very safe and predictable income stream for the city. But Mark, if you're on, you might be able to speak to Shemaine's questions about the performance of the Steelton portfolio.
Sure. The Steelton portfolio I monitor weekly. Right now we're at 96% in terms of up-to-date accounts, which is a remarkable portfolio that even in the pandemic that people are paying their trash bills at a rate of 96%. We are going to, I'm sitting down with the folks at Public Works. There are about 80 or so accounts that we have to address that are 1 month behind. But we feel that as the portfolio matures, that that will decrease on its own. But we're going to see if there's any measures that we can do and implement with Steelton in order to make sure that we can get to 100%. But this portfolio is performing very well and above expectation given the pandemic, and it is monitored every week.
Okay, so if at some point someone could send me the numbers for that. I don't know if you have like a monthly or quarterly report that you use.
No, I'd be happy to send it to you. I'll send that to you. You'll have it Thursday.
That's fine. And so maybe I'm missing something because the language has here, and I don't have the one for Paxton. I only have the one for Pembroke.
Councilwoman Daniels,
Yeah.
if you cite me to where you're reading, because I can't. Yes.
So Councilwoman Daniels, I'm the document that Isaac sent over. It's on page 8. It's Exhibit B. It's I guess Section 1, Part B, where it speaks to the city of Harrisburg shall provide each unit with municipal solid waste containers free of additional charge. And it's the same units that we provide to our city residents, which is a 95-gallon container, a 65-gallon container, or 2 35-gallon containers. So that is a part of the contract with Pembroke that we will be providing them with containers or toters. And Isaac sent that at 5:57.
Yeah, I'm looking at the document that Isaac sent.
Yeah, 5:57. It's on page 8. Page 8 speaks to the container issue.
Okay, you guys can move forward and come back to me after I find these.
All right, Councilmember Mazur has a question.
Yeah, no, I just I guess for the public's sake, could we just talk about the dollar amounts that are being transferred over for these expenses in each line?
I'll let Mark do that. He prepared the reallocation.
Is there a specific question? Do you want to address?
The cost associated with the purchase of the toters, and when we can expect those to be purchased. I know we're looking immediately for Pembroke. Just talking about the sums and how quickly the turnaround can be for those toters.
Yeah, right now, once this reallocation is approved, we are looking to be in the queue, and I believe the queue is about 6 weeks. So we will start receiving our first toters within 6 weeks. The amounts per toter, the trash containers are about $49 per container. Same with recycling. And I believe they have a wooden waste container, which is $16. We have the accounts, I think, are $1,810 for 1,810 accounts. And so each household will have 3 containers. And so that's how you get to the amount. And we have some amounts because they're allowed to choose either a large container or 2 smaller containers. So for budgetary purposes, we wanted to make sure we just had enough to enable us to buy 2 containers, 2 waste containers if we needed them. We don't think that that's going to be a widely chosen option, but we just wanted to be prepared for it.
Okay, thank you. So I'm looking at the expenses for the recycling containers and the I guess we're looking at the recycling and the trash containers. We're looking at a total of, and just correct me if I'm wrong, $258,000 from neighborhood services to make those purchases.
Yes.
Okay.
The hope is that eventually, as this portfolio matures, that we'll be able to reimburse the neighborhood services fund for the purchase of those toters.
Okay, and then I guess that sum is assuming both Paxton and Pembroke, and since we don't know the I guess, and if there's any additional money left over, would that just be transferred back to neighborhood services if we're not going to be spending all the money on the toters, correct?
Yes, we will first see if we need to buy any more toters. But if we do not use if we don't get the contract, we will not expend that amount for any toters. And we can reallocate it back to the neighborhood services fund.
Okay, and thank you. And I had the opportunity to speak with Director Johnson earlier today about this proposal. I know the sanitation guys feel very strong that they're going to be able to provide the level of service that's needed. Are we looking at hiring any additional staff to take on these additional collection runs?
Yes, we've had discussions with both Aaron and Dave West about their needs to be able to take on this contract. We're going to hire 6 new employees in order to do that, and we are going to be purchasing 1 rear packer.
Okay, so I guess we can expect the rear packer an additional either reallocation or as a part of the 2021 budget proposal.
I believe that we have already purchased. Well, we've already done the reallocation for that.
For the additional packer?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. No additional questions at this time.
Thank you. Council President.
Okay, Mayor, I understand that you are in negotiations with Paxtang, but when will we see that agreement? When will that come forth?
So we had a work session with the Paxtang Borough Council, and they plan to vote this coming week, next week. So if they would do the same thing, presumably that Pembroke did, they would start by voting to either accept the bids or reject the bids and enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the city. If they choose to move forward and enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the city, then both bodies would need to pass that agreement between now and the end of the year. We have a little more time with Paxtang because for whatever reason, their contract doesn't start till February. So Pembroke's is January 1, Paxtang's is February 1. But the answer is you would see both intergovernmental agreements very soon, and probably I would say at your next legislative session, but Isaac would have to answer that. And we're in the final stages of going back and forth right now with Pembroke.
Okay, I'd like to see that as soon as possible, but I don't want to wait till the 12th hour that I see that agreement. Are we looking to hire additional workers for that particular area as well?
Yes, Mr. Woolley just addressed that. The budget proposal for next year is going to include 6 new hires for sanitation. And those workers will not only allow us to address Pembroke and hopefully Paxtang, but they're also necessary to help with Steelton. Having reviewed that contract, we've made it work in Steelton, but we've had to borrow labor, especially during this time of COVID, from other departments like Parks Maintenance and Highway. And we'd rather have full-time dedicated sanitation workers do that. I can say that I've discussed that already with ASME, and the union is very excited about the possibility of adding additional unionized workers.
Well, that's my concern because Pembroke is much larger than Paxtang. And I'm just want to be assured that we're not utilizing 6 workers and they're going between Stilton, Paxtang, and Pembroke.
Yeah, actually, so Pembroke and Paxtang would be on different days. One would be on Wednesday and one would be on Thursday. So theoretically, the same workers could do the routes on different days of the week.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Thank you. Go ahead to Council Member Madsen. I can still talk.
Thank you. I guess for me, which giving me some peace of mind, since these are some pretty substantive agreements, if we could get a formal statement from the audit committee, the controller's office, and the treasurer's office for each agreement, and particularly the Steelton piece, to make sure that we've established best practices and that they have reviewed our previous agreement with Steelton and just didn't have any suggestions on how we could improve these other agreements, or if they had any concerns as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bowers.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Green.
I don't have any questions. Most of the questions or concerns that I had were already addressed. So thank you.
All right, if we want to move over to the second part of this allocation, Mark,
Yeah.
are you taking that one?
Actually, I'm going to ask Wayne Martin to present on that.
All right, Wayne, are you on the line? Oh, there you are.
I am, thank you. And I would like to share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see on my screen here. This is about the acquisition of a new facility for the Department of Engineering and Planning. As you know, Public Works property out on 1820 Paxton is actually shrinking in size because of the I-83 expansion. As we just heard, the Public Works operations are expanding. The engineering department is actually housed in the back of the 1820 Paxton building, the traffic shop. Engineering department itself is in 123 Walnut, and the planning department is in 10 North 2nd Street. Our equipment, as you can see from the photos on this presentation, is actually stored in 5 separate locations. So the 3 I mentioned, City Island, and also on 19th Street, the old Armory facility, we still have equipment there. So one of the reasons this could work is, it consolidates our personnel and equipment. I listed here all the positions that would be relocating to the new facility. The building that we've come to a verbal agreement with M&T has an appraised value of $675,000. The purchase price the city would pay would be $375,000. The other $300,000 would be a donation from M&T to the city. The lot size is 0.81 acres. The building size is a little over 8,000 square feet. The building was constructed in 1976. The only caveat to this that probably made it unappealing to private developers was that M&T has a desire to maintain an ATM on the site to serve the low-income community. They have certain federal guidelines to maintain ATMs in certain neighborhoods, and we could certainly accommodate that ATM machine. As for the plan, the first floor of the facility is basically an open lobby. There's a safe that would remain, and then also like an IT room, which would work for us. So the plan would be to more or less empty out the lobby, remove the desks and the countertops and space like that, and turn it into what we call our traffic shop, which is basically shelving to store signs, traffic signal equipment, and lights, street lights. The second floor is currently utilized as office space, and that's the space we would maintain for the planning and engineering departments. There's actually 3. The space is actually very comparable to the various spaces that we have, with the addition to be about 3 extra office spaces, which we have used, which we actually have now, and we use sometimes for field inspection offices for various projects. Currently, we're housing the field inspector for the CAT project out on Market Square. And so that's saving CAT around $20,000, to improve city property since the city owns Market Square. There is a project on Her Street right across the Her Street underpass improvement project that'll kick off here in March. And we could house the PennDOT inspectors for that, in return for certain improvements to city infrastructure. We also have the 7th Street, the upcoming 7th Street project and 2nd Street projects where we can house field inspectors that the city uses for construction management and inspection purposes. This is the capital investment move-in cost that was put together by our facility manager, Dave Baker, in conjunction with various private companies that would be used. So we're looking at close to a $200,000 investment. Some of this is, conservative. The HVAC system currently works, but Dave Baker's recommendation would be to replace it before move-in. The roof inspected very well. I think it was recently upgraded, but some of this equipment, including the HVAC equipment, is circa 1976 when the building was constructed. We've included cameras, access control equipment, and the first floor remodeling, if you will, cleaning out. The annual recurring costs around $54,000 a year. Most of that is, obviously sewer, water, electric, and some other costs. Excuse me. We have included, annual recurring costs as if all these cleaning and maintenance would be outsourced. But certainly we can discuss if there's staffing in the union that can handle these, or if some of them do need to be outsourced. We typically have always outsourced pest control, fire and security, but cleaning and snow removal are certainly negotiable. And then finally, there's a link here for an actual virtual tour. The listing agent, Bill Gladstone, who I think most of you know, had his team go in and take photographs of the entire inside of the facility. So council members of the general public, can click on this link and sort of take a tour of the facility to see, the condition that it's in. But with that, I can answer any questions about this budget reallocation.
Thank you. And I just want to confirm that the amount that we're asking as part of the allocation to move over is $405,000.
Yeah, I can speak to that, Wayne. Yes, that includes the $375 price plus some money for closing costs. We're not entirely sure what those will be until we get there. And I will just say that this represents a several month-long negotiation with M&T, which originally approached the city with this building and with the desire to see it repurposed in a way that would benefit the city. They, from the very beginning, have wanted to make a portion of this essentially a donation, and we worked out a deal here in which we are paying well under the appraised value. So I want to thank M&T for working with us to try and come up with a good long-term solution for the property. The costs that Wayne referenced in the PowerPoint, those will be in the budget for next year. So we can have a further discussion about those at a later point. But that was just so you could see the full picture of what the cost will be to get the building up and running. All we're doing tonight is asking for authorization to proceed ahead with the closing, and you will see the official contract with M&T before we close on them. But this is the allocation portion, which signifies to M&T that we have the money ready to go. And their interest is in closing before the end of the year.
I know I've been briefed on this already, so I'm going to defer to my colleagues with any questions. Can we move back the screen sharing back to the gallery view so I can see everybody?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's on me.
Oh, thanks, Wayne. But I'll start. I know I can see Councilmember Madsen. I'll start with you tonight.
No questions at this point. I may have some later. Thank you.
Councilmember Bowers.
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
And Councilmember Majors.
No. So I was able to tour the facility several months back, and I'm glad we're looking at moving this forward. So again, Wayne, this will take all of traffic engineering and a few other departments. Could you just refresh my memory on who all is going over? I missed part of the presentation. My apologies.
So, yeah, in the presentation, we did list the positions, but it's essentially the entire engineering department, which is currently located in 123 Walnut. So that would include myself, administrative assistant, project manager, and 2 engineer reps that do the street cut and road closures, inspections. In addition, we have 6 traffic techs and the traffic signal street light manager. We also have the planning department, the historic resources preservation position, and the deputy director of planning, and also the urban planner. So the 4 planning department members. So those individuals would all move over, immediately upon. The only other member under that department is Richard Cox with the parking authority. So that's still an open discussion whether to move the entire parking authority, which is really just one person, to that facility, or to, leave Rich where he is. There's certainly options.
Thank you. And I guess it was also my understanding that there may be some space for community policing to be, for some space for community policing to work out of at this facility should we move forward. Is that correct?
There's at least.
I can take that one, Wayne. Actually, the one of the great benefits of this proposal is that once engineering relocates, that area where engineering currently is located in the public safety building, right across from the commissioner's office, that will become our community policing center. It will be part of the larger changes that we are going to be proposing for next year's budget, with the new community service aides and the new division of community services. So it'll give it a prominent place in the current building.
Okay, so, all right, but so, all right, well, yeah, no, I'm confused, because I thought that there was going to be some space up there available for that. And if we're looking at ensuring community access to police, they should be more in the community rather than at the public safety building. But that's, I guess, I want to focus on this project. So we're going to just, it's solely just going to be traffic engineering and a few folks from planning, historic preservation, et cetera. So no public access to the facility for that purpose. We'll just have the ATM there per M&T.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, that goes against what I had what my understanding was, but okay, no additional questions at this time.
Okay, we moved things, but I lost track. I think Councilmember Daniels, have I gone to you?
No, I didn't catch the timeframes you were looking at.
So M&T would like to close on the property by the end of 2020. We're currently putting together actually a moving plan. It does involve, public works demolition crews and other things. So once I put together that moving plan, a relocation plan, if you will, I can provide you with that, but it will take a few months to totally relocate and get all the utilities transferred over and things like that.
You good? Okay.
Yeah, that does it for me.
Councilmember Green.
No, I don't have any questions on this. Thank you.
And I think I got everybody but Council President.
Thank you. Wayne, I guess I'm on the same wave path as Mr. Majors, because I thought that the police department was going to have accessibility to that building.
So I personally have not discussed any of this with the police department. I don't know that the facility that they have on 15th Street gets much use as far as community policing. center. There's certainly office space available. You've seen the inside of this facility. There's
Yes,
at least
I
there's
have touring with you. I understand.
yeah, there's at least 3 offices and sort of a common area that are not currently programmed with the our department. So I had mentioned in the beginning of the presentation that we could definitely save some funding on some of these larger projects by housing construction inspection companies in there on city projects rather than have them rent field offices. But there are unprogrammed spaces at the moment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Arlett. That's all I have.
Okay, prior to moving back into our session, is there any lingering questions on any part of this allocation?
Are we able to separate out the 2 allocations?
That I will pose that back to Neil or the mayor.
Just so I understand the question, there's an exhibit A and exhibit B. Do you mean, can you vote on one exhibit and not the other, or do you mean splitting up things that are in the same exhibit?
One and not the other. I think the contract with Paxton and Pembroke, I don't know. The fact that I can't even see a contract on Paxton. The resolution is not consistent with the contract, and then the contract seems some things are a little too ambiguous for me. So
there is no resolution for Paxton and Pembroke contracts in front of you. It's simply the reallocation. Those would come down as 2 separate resolutions under the Intergovernmental Cooperation Act. But both entities would have to approve the identical contract and resolution language under the act. That's what we did with Steelton. So this is an allocation to pay because of the 6-week lead time for ordering. And there is a small risk that the deal doesn't happen, but you have to be 6 weeks in for an order, and they stopped getting trash service after December 31st in Pembroke. They voted to reject all proposals from their bid. So there's a confidence that they're moving forward as they voted they would. They then, and in this body, both would get a resolution with the contract language in it that would come down at the next legislative session. Paxton still has to vote and meet on their determination as well. So so you would get to approve the contracts, which aren't here yet. This allocation doesn't force your approval of those contracts if you don't like the terms. It allocates money to put it in the pipeline for toters. That's what it does. Okay. So you're not committing in the sense that the contract is approved.
Yeah, I'd rather have the allocation match the agreement. And there isn't. And so I guess going back to just the original question, can the 2 allocations be separated out?
If there's a motion to remove one of the exhibits, that is within the council's discretion to make a motion, a second, and have that as an amendment to the resolution.
Mr. Arlett, as the chair, what did you?
Any other questions or points of clarity at this point? Hearing no other questions, Council President, I'm sorry, what were you saying before? I apologize.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Mr. Arlett?
We were talking to each other, so I didn't hear what you said, so I apologize.
I said, are you willing to do a motion to separate the 2?
I don't personally need to separate. I understand we're going to have to see contracts and approve contracts, so they're always separate from an allocation. If the contract is differently and we need to reallocate funds differently, I think we can do that. But this is simply just to allocate the funds to prepare for a purchase and prepare for a contract. I recognize that some of it has to be approved, but I also don't want to ignore the sense of urgency to be prepared to provide a service that we will be contractually obligated to adhere to. So, I mean, I will leave that to any colleagues who want to make a motion. I don't necessarily want to make a motion to separate them.
Okay. All right. You have a motion to go back into the business?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We are now officially back into the legislative agenda. If there's any additional questions or comments on Resolution 86, if there's none, Mr. Petrosky, please call the vote.
How do I make, I would like to make the motion to remove
Yes,
Appendix A.
go ahead, Ms. Daniels. Go ahead, make the motion.
Okay, could I would like to move to remove Appendix A from the budget reallocation number.
Just, sorry, Shemaine, just as a point of order, you don't want to remove the appendix. You have to break up the appendix if you want to separate the actual allocation. They're both listed on the same appendix.
Okay, so so then just remove the expenditure. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, so you'd probably want to make a motion to remove the, are you talking specifically about the toter?
I would like to have the expenditures related to the contracts with both Pembroke and Pakistan.
So you're talking specifically about the toter, so you'd want to make a motion to remove or separate the allocation for the toters in the amount of, I believe it is $258,200 from the allocation for $405,000 for the M&T building.
Right.
Have a motion. Have a second, please.
Thank you.
Second.
Questions, comment on the motion? Mr. Petrosky, please call the vote for the the motion. Excuse me.
Mr. Allett,
No.
Ms. Bowers,
No.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
No.
Mr. Madsen,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
No.
Motion fails.
Thank you, Mr. Petrosky. Back to Resolution 86. Please call the vote.
Calling the vote for Resolution 86 as amended. Mr. Allett?
Just point of order, it was not.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Amended. Mr. Petrosky, it's not amended. The amendment failed. We're calling the vote for Resolution 86 in its entirety as approving the sixth proposed 2020 budget.
Well, just a point of clarification. So it was reintroduced tonight with the amendment. So Neil, we don't need an amendment with the updates.
No, you don't need an amendment with the updates.
All right. Calling the vote for Resolution 86. Mr. Allett,
Yes.
Ms. Bowers,
Yes.
Ms. Daniels,
No.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Madsen,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Resolution 86 passes.
Thank you, Mr. Petrosky. Moving on to Resolution 89 of 2020. Please read that into record.
Resolution 89 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the city to negotiate and enter into a master certified local government grant agreement with the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, PHMC, providing for eligibility to apply for grants through the Certified Local Government Grant Program for projects that support the city's historic preservation program.
That will be placed in Building and Housing Committee. Moving on to old business, council members, is there any old business? Moving on to new business, council members, is there any new business?
President Williams?
I'm sorry, Mr. Majors.
Yeah. Just on old business, I again want to thank Chair Green for her work on Bill 8. This is a starting point for us here in the city to start looking at some of these, this advisory committee, and then the public having more of an opportunity to be involved in this process. I look forward to that group working with members of council so we can start to tackle these issues, and additionally working with the Bureau of Police to a certain extent, just to figure out exactly how we're going to all move forward on this. This is, again, about accountability of public servants to the public that they do serve. So again, Chair Green, thank you for all your hard work and all the members of council on getting that done. Thank you.
Anyone else Thank you. Moving on to new business. Council members, any new business this evening?
Again, just one point I want to make. I think during, if you don't mind, President Williams, right, am I allowed to proceed?
Pardon me?
Said, am I allowed to proceed?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay. All right. You know, as we're entering into the fall, as Council Member Mattson as Council Member Mattson mentioned, we are seeing an increase in COVID cases across the Commonwealth, and particularly here in Dauphin County. Dauphin County recorded its second highest one-day case count yesterday, according to the Department of Health, with 94 cases. We know we're entering into the fall here, and people are gonna be want to having indoor gatherings for Thanksgiving and other holidays here. So I'm just imploring folks to practice all the safety measures that are being recommended by the CDC, so we can work to keep our community safe. These are very concerning, and I think right now, based on all the cases that are out there, there's been an 8% positivity rate overall throughout this whole process on COVID cases in Dauphin County. So just want to encourage folks to be safe through this fall and winter, so that we can work to get our city back up and running, because it's going to be some very tough financial, it's going to be a very tough economic situation here moving forward. So just wanted to note that, and again, to thank all the veterans as we're remembering Veterans Day here, and the anniversary of the Marine Corps. Just thank the veterans for their service to us as citizens of the United States. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Majors. Anyone else, please? The only new business I have is to inform the public about our remaining city council meetings via Zoom. Work session Tuesday, November the 17th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. Public hearing Monday, November the 23rd, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. Legislative session, and it's regarding the 2021 budget presentation, Tuesday, November the 24th, 2020 at 6:00 p.m. Budget hearing Tuesday, December the 8th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. Another budget hearing Wednesday, December 9th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. And a special legislative session. It's the final meeting and voting on the 2021 budget, Thursday, December 10th, 2020 at 6:00 p.m. The public is invited to view the live stream meeting. Residents may send their comments and questions in writing to be included on the official record by emailing publiccomment@harrisburgpa.gov no later than 4:00 p.m. on the day of the meeting. You must include your name and address to be considered. Any comments and questions will be limited to one per resident. Details of access to the live streaming will be available on the city website. Thank you, everyone. There's no additional new business. I ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Oh, are we having the video afterwards?
Yes, I just called the chief and he's here. For all those who's coming, I'll tell him that you're on your way. Mr. Abbott, I did get your message and said that you had a prior engagement. Ms. Bowers, Ms. Daniels, Mr. Mattson, and Ms. Green.
I'm on my way.
Okay, thank you.
There.
Thank you. Ms. Green, you as well, right?
Yes, I'll be on my way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.